Well, good morning, everyone. As we gather together this morning, can you hear me? Am I coming across? Okay. As we gather together this morning, let us remember that our church building actually stands on the traditional territory of the Iowa people who call themselves Pohote in their own language. Good morning, and I hope everyone is feeling well on this beautiful sunny morning. I'm Reverend Amy Petrie Shaw. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and welcome again to our digital service. Patty Notch is today's celebrant. Wave for us, Patty. And Barb Martin is our song leader. Barb, you want to wave and say hi? There's Barb. And Bruce Martin, of course, is our pianist. Wave for us, Bruce. Say hey.
Hello, everybody.
Please keep your mics muted during the entire service. You are welcome to turn your cameras on. We're recording this service, which will be available on our main UCDSM Facebook page and our First Church of Des Moines YouTube channel. After the service, please feel free to stay around, turn your mic and your camera on, and join us in a virtual coffee hour. We do not record the coffee hour.
Hallelujah.
We're talking today about change, specifically about the way beliefs can change under high stress conditions. In his interestingly named book, The Dead Toad Scrolls, Kilroy J. Oldster writes, "Living is a process of developing oneself. Without experiencing pain from disconcerting periods in our lives, we would be a different person, perhaps a lesser person. This is the positive side of change, this development of self, brought about by facing rough times and encountering deeply what really makes us tick. This is the idea that we can grow and change into deeper or more nuanced belief through natural and rational experience and reaction to that experience. But there are multiple layers to change. Columnist Ozanne Verrill writes, when your beliefs are intertwined with your identity, changing your mind means changing your identity. That's a really hard sell. Verrill says the mind doesn't follow the facts. Facts, as John Adams put it, are stubborn things, but our minds are even more stubborn. Doubt isn't always resolved in the face of facts for even the most enlightened among us, however credible and convincing those facts may be. So come and let us be in community here together where we can talk about stress and change and doubt and facts."
We light our chalice today with the words of the April 2020 UUA Global Chalice Lighting. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Walk humbly now. Do justly now. Love mercy now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. Our gathering song is number 1, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door. The words are copied in the chalice. Please keep your mics muted and simply sing along at home if you would like.
And rain
Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines digital service. My name is Patty Notch. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm the celebrant for today's service. Whether you are with us for the day or here for a lifetime, we are glad that you have chosen to join us online. Everyone is welcome to join us for a service, whether or not you live in Des Moines or have ever physically been at First Unitarian. Whoever you are, we hope that you find something here today to help you on your life's journey.
I believe that every heart is kind. Some are just a little underused. Hatred is a symptom of the times, lost in these uneducated blues. I just want to love you while I can. All these other thoughts have me confused. I don't need to try to understand. Maybe I'll get up, turn off the news. Turn off the news and build a garden, just my neighborhood and me. We might feel a bit less hardened, we might feel a bit more free. Turn off the news and raise your kids, give them something to believe them, teach them how to be good people, give them hope that they can see. Hope that they can see. Turn off the news and build a garden with me. Trust builds trust. All that negativity's a bust. Trust builds trust. Don't you want to be happy? Turn off the news and build a garden, just my neighborhood and me. We might feel a bit less hardened, we might feel a bit more free. Turn off the news and raise the kids, give them something to believe them, teach them how to be good people, give them hope that they can see. Hope that they can see. Turn off the news and build a garden with me. Turn off the news and build a garden with me. Turn off the news and build a garden with me. Let's do it, shall we?
Thank you so much, Kent. That was Kent Newman doing Turn Off the News, Build a Garden by Lucas Nelson and Promise of the Real. Today's story for all ages is called Dion and the Amazing Lunch. Once upon a time, somewhere very near here, there was a little boy named Dion, and every day Dion's father would call for him and his sisters to come into the kitchen before school. "What do you want for lunch?" his dad would say, but Dion would shrug and look away. And so his dad would try his best to think it through and make a guess. He'd pack a lunch for Dion to take, put it in a bag and give it a shake. But every day the same thing happened. Dion's lunch stayed in the wrapping. He'd pull it out and take one bite and shrug and say, "This isn't right." Now Dion's dad got pretty tired. Thinking up lunches was getting hard. So Dion's mom gave it a try and asked, "What do you want, big guy?" But Dion didn't try to say, he just shrugged and looked away. She made him things from far off places. She even tried sandwiches with faces. Fried chicken, some ham on rye, but every lunch, Dion just sighed. He'd pull it out and take one bite and shrug and say, "This isn't right." At last his mom had had enough. She went and found his Grandma Beth. "Maybe you can make him eat. We've tried vegetables and meat, rice and bread and little treats." His grandma smiled and thought a bit, and then a thought finally hit. "Enough of this. I have a hunch Dion should make his own darn lunch." The very next day, Grandma gave him a hug, asked what he wanted, and when he shrugged, she shook her head and said, "Okay, then no one will make your lunch today." Dion's eyes flew open wide and he grinned from deep inside. "I really, really get to pick? And you won't laugh and say that's if. You get to pick," his grandma said, and Dion reached out for the bread. He added cheese and then some ham and quietly said, "Can I add jam?" "It isn't what I like to eat, but if you want to add something sweet, you go ahead," his grandma said. And Dion smiled and loaded bread. When he was done, his sandwich seemed like something taken from a dream. It was yellow, pink, and red with mustard leaking from the bread. He added in a little cup berries and rice all mixed up and put it in his bag, and off he went to start his day. At lunch, the other kids all waited. Dion never participated. But today he gave a shout and then he pulled his lunch bag out. He grabbed his sandwich and took a bite and smiled and said, "This is just right." Thank you for listening to my story today. For those of you who've not been here before, I do my offering words with my normal gravity and grace. A UU first grader was visiting his deeply Christian grandparents for the summer, and he began attending vacation Bible school at their church. The teacher was young and new and not sure that anyone was listening to her. So thinking quickly, she offered $10 to any child who could tell her who is the Savior of all people. Most of the children were just confused by the complex question, but the little Unitarian Universalist stuck his hand in the air and waved it frantically. Surprised and worried, the teacher called on him. "Yes, Johnny?" "Jesus Christ, the only Son of God," the boy answered confidently. The teacher was amazed. "Why, Johnny, that's correct, but I'm surprised that you know that answer." Johnny looked around and said with a shrug, "Actually, I know there's no right answer to that question, but business is business. Give me the $10. So that we might continue to welcome everyone to a place where we share a journey but not one right answer, the morning offering will now be given and received. And if you would like to support First Unitarian Des Moines, you can do it one of two ways. You can either go to our website and click on the Give button up at the top and go right to the online giving link, or you can go to the PushPay link that Lyra has put right in the chat. Thank you so much, Bruce. That was lovely. As a community of human hands and human hearts, it's challenging being apart in spaces where we can't hug one another, cry together, laugh together. But we're going to continue doing the best we can. So we are here together in this digital space to continue sharing our laughter and our tears and being here for one another. I want to hold in love anyone who's grieving or heavy-hearted or scared or worried today. We had some joys and concerns sent in. Kent Newman sends us both a joy and a concern about his daughter's service as a nurse on an adult COVID-19 ICU at Jacoby North Bronx Hospital, 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. She is completing 3 weeks and has decided to work another 3-week term. She has a great team of all women with a woman doctor from Colorado as their leader, plenty of PPE, and many gift boxes from her extensive network of friends and family. Ken says, my grandkids, Harriet and Abel, are doing well with their dad, John Maley, at home here in Des Moines. So let's hold her and her family in our hearts. Harvey Harrison sent in a sorrow. He said his friend and longtime Unitarian Universalist, Mathia Little Smith, Mathia, is in Methodist Hospital here with COVID-19. Any cards, letters, and texts sending support from our congregation will be greatly appreciated. Mathia has not regularly attended our services since her return to Iowa from Minnesota. She is, however, one of us and a strong Unitarian voice in the social justice work that Harvey is doing. Because this is being filmed and will be publicly available, I don't want to give her phone number out here, but you can email me or Harvey to get information on how to text or call her. We're both in the directory, or when in doubt, just email me, revamy@ucdsm.org, and I'll get you that information. You can also send an e-card from Methodist Medical Center's website, which is the www.unitypoint.org/Des Moines/sendacard.aspx. If you type any part of that in, the rest should come up for you. We also have a joy in that our annual meeting is coming up on May 31st, so keep that on your calendar. I see Liz and Patty smiling. We've all been planning for this. It's going to be a good moment for all of us to be together and to talk about what's going on, and you're going to want to be there. So get it on your calendar, May 31st. We're still going to have our annual meeting, so keep it in your mind. Let us bring now into this moment anyone we know who could use some special care and attention. If you want, please put their names or any thoughts you have in the chat box so we can all see it. Bring their names into the love of this community, and may the love of our community hold them all. Within our community and across the wider world, there are people who are denied their inherent worth and dignity because of who they are as a human being. May the work of our hands and our hearts support and comfort everyone who's marginalized or oppressed, who's silenced or at risk, who's afraid. May our light shine on the broken places of the world, and may we journey together with all those who fight for equity and justice in human relations. May everyone who's grieving be comforted. May everyone who's tired find rest. May all those who are sick find health and wellness. May the broken places be healed. May those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant. Each week we light 3 candles one for all the joys and concerns that we've shared out loud, one for the names that we've shared on the chat, and a final candle for all of the joys and all of the sorrows which are deeply held but remain unspoken here today.
Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul.
Our two readings today are almost opposites in initial perspective, but their approaches to surviving and thriving in the stress of change are almost identical. This first one, taken from an article by writer John Pavlovitz called "Am I Losing My Faith or Just Losing My Mind?" is about struggling with losing a sense of connection to an external God and coping with that struggle. Pavlovitz writes, "That's what's so difficult about the spiritual journey, the duplicity of it all. When your faith is fully secure, prayer becomes the most intimate of conversations with someone you know well and love. But when in crisis, it feels like talking to the ether. The nonsensical ramblings of a delusional madman. A belief in God, which once filled you with such contentment, now makes you feel more than a little crazy. I'm learning how to momentarily withdraw from spiritual striving for the sake of my sanity. During those moments when things seem most chaotic, when I feel the most desperate for answers that simply refuse to come, I stop looking. As much as I am able, I temporarily give myself permission not to care. In those moments, I am not abandoning God or faith. I am merely retreating until I feel strong. Enough to re-enter the fray of asking and wrestling and seeking and waiting. I am finding that his act is, in itself, the greatest of soul care. These times of voluntary surrender, strangely enough, are often the ones I look back on as the times of greatest peace and deepest spiritual growth. The moments I rest in a truth that is beyond my understanding, outside of what my mind can grasp, and far greater than my inability to figure it all out. Suddenly, I am well again. When you think deeply and long passionately and seek earnestly in this life, you are bound to encounter profound unrest along the way. That's how investing in anything works. The more you have at stake, the greater the risk. As you seek to know the great mysteries of this life, there will be a cost. And in those times when you are filled with doubt and guilt and worry, be okay with both the questions that come and the emotional upheaval they bring. You are being stretched beyond what you are currently capable of understanding, and these are the soul's growing pains. Trust that God is in this process. If you are in the middle of a spiritual crisis, take heart. You may not be losing your faith or your mind. You may simply be shifting as you grow.
Please take a moment to breathe and think about all the things in your life which support you at this phase of your journey. And join me in a silent moment of thought, meditation, or prayer. Thank you.
Our second reading comes from the Psychology of Dealing with Change, How to Become Resilient. On February 21st this year, the web magazine PsyCom featured an article called The Psychology of Dealing with Change, How to Become Resilient. The writer says, while it's important to look to the past to find your strengths, sometimes you can feel too pulled to the future in times of change. When you worry about what the future will bring or what mistakes you might make, you forget to be in the present and observe what's happening around you. To bring yourself back to the present, get in tune with your body. Pay attention to how it responds to stress and set aside time every day to relax, take some deep breaths, and bring your focus back to the present. Find your priorities. The most resilient people see change as an opportunity rather than a monster to fear. Transitions in life allow you to consider where your priorities lie. How do you really want to spend your time on Earth? What's really important to you? Where do you see yourself wasting your time and energy? With a clear sense of your goals and values, you will find your mind and body can be much more resilient when it comes to the stressors of change. Above all, prioritizing your health in life's transitions means not being afraid to ask for help when you need it. Humans are social creatures by nature, so you weren't built to withstand every sudden event in life without the support of others. Talk to family and friends who are experiencing similar changes, or consider finding a support group in your community. Ask your doctor about how to prioritize your health during change, and don't be afraid to talk to a counselor or other mental health professional about building resilience. You can't avoid change, but you live a life of resilience. You can embrace transition and see challenges as opportunities to thrive. Is number 1031, May I Be Filled. The words will be in the chat screen. Please keep your mics muted and simply sing along at home if you would like.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness.
Thank you so much, Bruce and Barb. Who are you? That's a pretty basic question. It is a question based on context, though. If I ask a person who's crawling through my dining room window at 2 a.m., who are you? They pretty generally understand I am not asking for a deep and meaningful answer. Who are you? Well, I'm Steve, and I'll be your burglar tonight. It's pretty simple. Who are you? Define yourself. Tell me your story. Tell yourself your story. So right now, wherever you are sitting today, you know at least something about who you are and how you define yourself. And that definition has started from the time you are born. Each of us has a personal story, right? Shaped by our culture and our history and our beliefs. We have an image of who we are, and it impacts everything we do. If you'll grant me an image, it's the horse we're riding, this story of who we are. But what happens when something, say for example, a global pandemic, hits, something big, hits our life, and we start doing that James Luther Adams examination of everything, and maybe we feel like we're on the wrong horse. Maybe we want to change horses. Maybe my beliefs are moving. So let me back up a minute. We start out life with that name that our parents or someone gave us. And that's enough. It's our first label, whether we're Seamus O'Shaughnessy, Afong Lee, Amy, Amaya. It's a place to start that tells us who we are. It's the first leg of that horse we're riding. As we get older, this story of our life starts to add chapters, and each chapter builds on the thing that came before. Anthropologist Harold Isaacs says, humans are tribal and social animals. We look for the patterns and behavior and appearance that tell us who is our people and whose people we are. So we define ourselves by all these things, our ancestors, our family, our cultural history. These determine these early chapters. What are the rules for life? What are the guidelines that tell us what to believe about the nature of the universe? We start to build our story when we're very young, and events happen one after the other in our lives, and in our minds, we arrange this into a coherent whole, interpreted through our culture and our beliefs of the moment. And we pick labels for ourselves, whether religious or cultural, and we accept some of the labels that others give us based on this whole story. Our approach to spirituality and religion becomes part of this. As we examine what we believe about the nature of the universe, we find the labels that go with that. I'm an atheist, I'm a humanist, I'm a free thinker, I'm a Christian, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Jew. We start to find out what groups of things get called what. And by the time we finish childhood, we're on a fully developed horse. We're on a fully developed story. Who we are, what identity we wear, what labels we wear, even though it's still flexible. In Dead Toad Scrolls, which I really enjoy, writer Kilroy J. Oldster says, we're the product of our past. We start each day where we left off the day before. Now that makes sense. Changing the way we dress, where we work and live, even changing our name doesn't alter our basic constitution. Transformation of the self requires a radical alteration in the way we perceive the world and derive meaning. Transformation of self requires radical alteration. He goes on to say we create a meaningful life by what we accept as true and by what we create in the pursuit of truth and love and beauty and adoration of nature. So just moving to a new address like Patty did over the past few weeks, that doesn't change who you are. You're still you. Changing your shirt, changing your hair, changing where you go to school, even changing where you go to church, going to church here or going to church in Ames, that's fine. But crisis, huge things like a global pandemic or a member of your family getting cancer, one of your children being sick, big things, they can cause that radical alteration in the way we perceive the world and derive meaning. Suddenly, that story that sat on us well for our whole life doesn't quite fit, maybe. Pressure can confirm and strengthen belief. You can get more strong in your story, but it can also shatter belief. But here's the thing, our beliefs and our labels come from our story. They're wrapped all around that answer to who are you? How have you always defined yourself? I'm a Christian, I'm a Buddhist, I'm an atheist, I'm a humanist, I believe, I don't believe. Doesn't matter what the answer is, it's part of that, here's who I am. So when crisis makes you stop and think, well, I used to believe in this, but now I don't anymore. It starts to put pressure on that definition of, and here's who I am. Ozanne Verrill says, in my early years in academia, I would tend to get defensive when someone challenged one of my arguments during a presentation. Says, my heart would skyrocket, I would tense up, my answer would reflect the disdain with which I viewed the antagonistic question and the questioner. And I know I'm not alone here. We all tend to identify with our beliefs and arguments. Verrill says, this is my business, this is my article, this is my idea. But here's the problem. When your beliefs are entwined with your identity, changing your mind means changing your identity. And that's a really hard sell. Changing your mind means changing your identity. That's large. It's normal to find yourself reconsidering and reevaluating a lot of things during a crisis period. This, I believe, can easily become, well, maybe. Or even, I used to believe this, but now that. Or I used to not believe this, but now I'm considering it. But here's the marvelous thing about your story. You're the only one allowed to tell it. You're the only one who gets to pick which labels are correct and how you'll wear them. Most of us are really good about the labels we've chosen. We have no problem saying, oh, I was a cashier, but now I'm a pharmacist. We don't keep telling people we were a cashier for 30 years. We recognize we can discard a job title when it's no longer applicable, but words that have religious or spiritual meaning, people struggle with how to talk about that, how to feel about that. Somebody told me once, if I say I used to believe this and now I believe that, people are going to think I was saying I was wrong in what I believed, or that I'm making a mistake now, or I was making a mistake then. Our reading from John Pavlovitz said this morning, during those moments when things seem most chaotic, when I feel most desperate for answers that simply refuse to come, I stop looking. I temporarily give myself permission not to care. When life is frightening or heavy, everybody wants answers. And part of the heaviness of that is trying to make those answers reconcile with your personal story. And what I'm telling you is, if it's too heavy, don't make it reconcile. If what you're feeling right now doesn't suit the horse you've been riding, it's okay. Get off the horse. You can keep it chained up close. You don't have to let it run away. It's okay to reconsider any horse that you may have been riding. It's okay not to put a new label on yourself. Toying with ideas doesn't mean you're choosing them forever. You were not wrong previously, and you will not be wrong in the future if you decide that a practice or an idea that you pick up now is worth discarding in 6 months or a year. You are only stepping back until you feel strong enough to get back into that fight of asking, what do I really believe? What am I wrestling with? What am I seeking? What's my real label? As Pavlovitz says, this act is in itself the greatest of soul care. Whatever doesn't work for you right now, put it away, even if it's been yours for your whole life. Change horses as often as you need to, even if you only ride for a day. Believe in this minute, or do not believe in this minute, in what comforts you, what leads you to feel better and safer and more human. Be comforted, comfort one another. Only you know the words that go with you for this time. Author Shannon L. Alder said, one of the greatest regrets in life is being what others would want you to be, rather than being yourself. Select ideas that make you feel better and throw away whatever doesn't. Accept that other people in your life, your family, your friends may be doing the exact same thing, and honor them in that. Don't try to define or limit yourself in the middle of a crisis. Don't shame or blame or anything else. Step back and let it go. You're greater than words or labels. Your existence at this point in time is your only answer to who are you. Anything else is only a name card. And you get to choose what's written on it, not anyone else. Take a breath, step back, and do what works best for you. And be blessed. Over to you, Patty.
We extinguish this flame, but never the light of reason, the warmth of compassion, or the fire of commitment within our community. Our final song today is number 113, Where is Our Holy Church? The words will be in the chat screen. Please keep your mics muted and simply sing along at home if you'd like.
Where is the captives bond. Where is our holy land? Where all your men song? Wherever free minds truly seek with character the goal. Where is our paradise in inspiration sight, wherein we open open rise 10,000 years of right.
Go in wisdom, honoring faith, intellect, reason, and growth in your own life and in the lives of everyone you meet. Our service has ended, but your service begins anew. Peace, ashe, and may it be so. Thank you, Bruce. And thank you, everyone. I am going to stop the recording.